Well, good Wednesday morning, everybody. It is December 8th, 2021. Today we are looking at the 13th chapter of John's Gospel. We have gotten to verses 8 and 17. 8 through 17 is what we're going to look at today. We are in the feet washing section of John's Gospel. Remember, as I think I mentioned yesterday and perhaps even the day before, this is John's version of the Last Supper. There is really no breaking of the bread per se and the whole institution of the Last Supper, the communion, what we have with the Eucharist, the Last Supper, that we share here as disciples of Christ and American Baptists, but because of our disciples of Christ heritage, we have communion every Sunday. That's just part of what we do. We're big on communion here. That's a big thing to us. So, but there is not that breaking of the bread here. This is an emphasis rather on the feet washing. And we're going to talk about that today more. I don't think we've talked about it much yet. Kind of was holding it back if I remember right today. So let's take a look, verses 8 through 17 in the 13th chapter of John's Gospel. Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "One who has bathed does not need to wash except for the feet, but is entirely clean. And you are clean, though not all of you." For he knew who was to betray him. For this reason he said, "Not all of you are clean." After he had washed their feet, he put on his robe and had returned after he had washed their feet, had put on his robe and had returned to the table, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? That you call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set you for you an example, that you also should do as I have done to you. Very truly I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them." Okay. Now, one of the things in that culture, usually the lowliest slave was the one that was used to wash the feet of the guests that would be coming to dinner. You have to remember that in Jesus' time, they walked with sandals and typically open-toed feet or shoes, and the roads were not paved. Typically, lots of dirt roads, and also people would throw out into the street or the roads the refuse, whether it be from the chamber pot, if you will, or what have you, is thrown out into the street. So you have all this muck and mire, nastiness, that you're walking in. And plus they didn't have any idea of, didn't have fingernail clippers, toenail clippers, those kinds of things. Didn't have any real concept of that. So people's feet were pretty nasty. And of course they're quite dirty. In that culture, there was the idea that when you invited someone in, the lowliest slave would be the one that would come around and wash everybody's feet to get rid of the dirt from the bring it into the house, so to say. And that's one of the stories of Jesus with the woman washing Jesus' feet. You didn't even offer to wash my feet, and here she is washing them with her tears and her hair. That thing. So one of the things that a teacher could not ask of his students was for them to wash his feet. You could send them to go get whatever, go fetch this, go fetch that, but that was considered too lowly to ask your student to wash your feet. And here the teacher, the master, is washing the feet. So this is rather than focusing on the substitutional sacrifice, Jesus' focus in John's gospel rather is upon service and humility and doing for others more than what they might expect. Though he does talk about, Peter wants his head and his hands washed, and Jesus said, no, it's just that your feet, that comes in contact with the world, if you want to look at it that way, that which is being contaminated by the world. So we need to work on helping each other where we're becoming contaminated by the world. The world is very contaminated right now. It's always been that way, but we have our spirits and our hearts and being influenced by so much in culture today that's just pervasive. The internet has been a blessing in many ways and a horrible curse in others. And so there's very much that being tainted by the world. our hearts and our minds. And so we very much need to be there for one another, washing our feet per se. That part of us that's coming in contact with the world. We need to be there serving, helping each other, there for each other when we need it. So that's what's going on here. And very much an act of humility here. Very much the idea that nobody is too good to do any of the things. You need to, the master is willing to wash the feet. Who shouldn't be willing to do the lowliest jobs, you know? So don't ask others to do what you won't do yourself, that whole thing. So with that, we're going to end that section, or that part of it. We'll pick up at verse 18, a little bit more to this whole Last Supper in John's Gospel. We'll be talking more about probably Judas tomorrow. Okay? So with that, I'm going to let you go and have a very blessed day. And we'll see many of you tonight. We have the church council meeting. We had the Christian council last night. We'll have church council tonight. So if you're on that, we'll see you tonight. Have a blessed day and be a blessing to someone today. Bye-bye.